be known as our spine doctors, but for your patient, you are something far greater. You represent hope. And speaking of hope, let me share something personal. One of my all-time favorite movie is Munna by MBBS. Not just for the laughter, but for the message. Munna Bhai was not just healing people with a medicine. He was healing them with a humanity. It reminded us all that true healing goes far beyond surgery. Healing is hope. Healing is humanity. जैसा कि मुन्ना भाई ने कहा था कि जादू की झप्पी हो या सर्जरी का स्कैल्पेल, दोनों में एक ही बात होती है और वो है इंसानियत. My dear friends, when I was first invited to speak here, I hesitated. What could I, as a builder of enterprises, possibly offer to you, the healers of spines? But as I sat with that question, a deeper metaphor came to my mind. The spine you meant is the ultimate architecture needed for resilience of the human body. And just as you restore resilience to our bodies, leadership is about restoring resilience to the organization. So perhaps today, this shared metaphor will remind us that the spine is both a medical miracle and a corporate necessity for self-belief. It was with this same spine of self-belief that I made my first bold decision at the age of 16. I bought a second-class train ticket and left for Mumbai with no degree, no job, and no backup, except burning desire to define my own path. आखिर में किसी चीज को दिल से चाहो तो पूरी कायनात उसे तुमसे मिलाने की साजिश में लग जाती है. My dear friends, in Mumbai, I began learning to shot and polish diamonds. Each stone I polished taught me patience, precision, and perseverance. My first deal with a Japanese buyer earned me rupees 10,000 in a commission. The money never mattered. The moment did. because that was the moment when I realized that my beliefs would have to always outpace my doubts. And that is the truth about entrepreneurship. It never begins with a grand vision. It begins with a spark of conviction. It begins with the courage to act, even when the future is uncertain. And it begins with the willingness to dream alone and then walk alone before others join the path. क्योंकि सपने वो नहीं जो नींद में आते हैं, सपने वो है जो नींद उड़ा देते हैं. Just as I was settling down in Mumbai, I was called back to Ahmedabad to help my brother to run his PVC film factory. It was 1981 and I was just turned 19. Managing a factory at this young age taught me what no textbook could. It taught me the resilience needed to manage daily operational challenges. I got exposed to the complexities of managing people, especially factory workers. And I learned the challenges of the license Raj, where just a few companies controlled the landscape and did not want any change. Reflecting back, all of these experiences proved to be invaluable for me, as the most significant decade of India's transformations was just about to get started. And this in turn gave me the platform for transformations that was to reshape my thinking forever. मुन्ना भाई फिल्म की सबसे गहरी बातों में से एक ये थी कि बापू ने कहा था बदलाव लाना है तो सोच बदलनी होगी. In 1985, Sri Rajiv Gandhi, then the Prime Minister of our country, began liberalizing our economy by easing import licensing norms. This was a quite but significant reform. It was as if an economic pressure valve had opened up. We moved fast, becoming early importers of polymers and laying the foundations for our trading house. I was 23. Then came 1991 and India faced one of the darkest ever, with just 10 days of foreign exchange reserves left. Under the decisive leadership of the then Prime Minister, Shri P.V. Narasimha Rao, and Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, India launched a historic economic reset. 3 words define it: devaluations, deregulations, and globalizations. This marked the fall of many major established corporates who had the protection of license Raj. But for us, first generation entrepreneurs, it was the spark of reinventions we had been waiting for. We immediately established a global trading business, which in just 2 years went on to become India's largest trading house. This year was 1993, and I had already turned 31. Progress is never linear, and the biggest opportunity almost always emerge on the other side of the hurricanes. जहां सबने तूफान देखा, वहां कुछ ने अपनी नाव निकाली और समंदर पार कर लिया. Because in moments when others back off in fear, it is those with courage that step forward and build the bridge to the future. This belief in the future would become the operating DNA of the Adani Group. It was this spirit that carried us into 1995. Adani Exports, which you know as Adani Enterprise, went public. The listing came at an extraordinary 14 times premium. I was 33. On paper, it was a moment of a great validation. But within me, it also raised a deeper question. Was I trading value, or was I truly building it? I realized that if we were to shape the future, it was a time to make a bold decision. Trading commodities had given us a momentum, but it was time to build. The very infrastructures that carried those commodities, connected economies, and enabled nations to grow. From that moment on, I decided to build. I decided to chasing the tide and instead become the coastline that shaped the tide. And I decided to stop reacting to change and instead become the foundation that shaped the change. And it all started in Mundra with the objective to build a salt export jetty along with a US partner. To make a long story short, the partner backed out and we were left to build the jetty by ourselves. Around this time, in 1995-96, Gujarat government pioneered a public-private partnership policy for port development aiming to tap private sector capabilities, we dived right in. Keep in mind, we had never laid a brick before. Almost everyone called it madness. A port in a marshland to be built by a team with a no construction experience. The fact is, in October 1998, our Mundra port commenced operations with his first berth, thereby making India's first private port launch. Thereafter, a few years later, the SEZ policy was announced. Once again, we moved fast, while others saw a barren land. We saw 40,000 acres of possibility. My dear friends, Mundra is the manifestation of a belief made real. It is a reminder that vision dares, destiny bends. It is now India's largest multi-cargo port, the world's largest private single-site thermal power plant, India's first HVDC transmission line, India's largest integrated solar and wind manufacturing hub, and a cluster of vital industries that include petrochemicals, copper smelter, solar accessories, and much more yet to come. However, the real story of Mundra is not about what we built,